Most people don't fail because they lack talent. They fail because they never decide who they are. They walk into rooms quietly, speak softly about their dreams, and wait for permission to believe in themselves. But let me tell you something simple in life. Changing the world does not reward potential. It rewards posture. How you act tells life what you believe about yourself. If you act unsure, life will treat you unsure. If you act small, opportunities will shrink around you. But the moment you act as if you belong, something remarkable happens. You don't need to shout. You don't need arrogance. You only need quiet certainty. Acting as if you are the best does not mean putting others down. It means refusing to put yourself below anyone. No one is better than you at being you. And once you understand that, your walk changes, your voice changes, your decisions change. And eventually, your results follow. Most people drift through life without ever making a clear decision about who they are. They wait for confidence to appear, for success to give them permission, or for someone else to tell them that they matter. But identity does not come from outside events. It is formed by an internal decision. When you decide who you are before the world does, you take control of your direction. Life responds not to what you want, but to what you believe about yourself and act upon consistently. The moment you fail to define yourself, society, circumstances, and other people will gladly do it for you. And they will usually aim low. Deciding your identity is not about pretending to be perfect, or claiming greatness without effort. It is about choosing a standard for how you think, act, and respond, regardless of your current results. Long before achievements show up, the identity must be established. You must decide that you are a disciplined person before discipline becomes visible. You must decide that you are capable before capability is proven. This decision acts like a compass. Without it, you wander. With it, every choice begins to align with the person you have decided to become. When identity is unclear, behavior becomes inconsistent. One day you try, the next day you quit. One day you believe in yourself, the next day you doubt everything. But once identity is decided, behavior starts to stabilize. You begin to ask better questions. What would a confident person do in this situation? How would a focused person use this hour? These questions quietly guide your actions. You stop negotiating with your potential, because you have already made the decision about who you are. The world constantly sends messages designed to shape your identity. Grades, income, opinions, comparisons, and labels. If you are not careful, you will accept these messages as truth. A single failure will convince you that you are a failure. A slow season will make you believe you are weak. But when you have already decided who you are, external events lose their power to define you. Failure becomes feedback, not a verdict. Criticism becomes noise, not identity. You remain steady because your sense of self is rooted internally, not externally. Deciding your identity also changes how you handle pressure. When challenges arise, you don't panic as easily because you are not questioning your worth. Every time something goes wrong, you already know who you are. Pressure no longer asks, "Are you good enough?" Instead, it asks, "Will you act like the person you decided to be?" This shift is powerful. It turns obstacles into opportunities to reinforce your identity, rather than threats to your confidence. This decision must be renewed daily. Identity is not set once and forgotten. It is reinforced through action. Every small choice either supports or contradicts who you say you are. When you act in alignment with your chosen identity, confidence grows quietly. When you act against it, self-doubt creeps in. This is why consistency matters more than intensity. You don't need dramatic changes. You need daily proof that you are living in agreement with your decision. The strongest people are not those with the best circumstances, but those with the clearest sense of self. They walk into rooms without announcing themselves, yet they carry certainty in their posture and tone. This certainty does not come from arrogance. It comes from clarity. They know who they are, what they stand for, and what they expect from themselves. Because of this, they are not easily swayed by trends, opinions, or temporary setbacks. When you decide your identity before the world does, you stop reacting and start leading. You no longer wait for motivation to move you. You move because it aligns with who you are. Over time, the world adjusts. People treat you differently. Opportunities respond differently. But even if nothing changes immediately on the outside, something far more important has changed on the inside. You are no longer asking for permission to believe in yourself. You have already decided. Most people lose confidence not because they are incapable, but because they spend too much time measuring themselves against others. The habit of comparison quietly destroys self-belief. The moment you start judging your worth by someone else's progress, you surrender control over your own growth. There will always be someone ahead of you, someone behind you, and someone doing something different. If you allow comparison to become your standard, you will never feel complete, because the finish line keeps moving. True confidence begins when you decide that your primary competition is not another person, but the person you were yesterday. Competing only with yourself brings clarity. Instead of asking whether you are better than someone else, you ask whether you are improving. This shifts your focus from ego to growth. Growth is measurable, personal, and sustainable. When you compare yourself to others, you often compare your behind the scenes to their highlights. You see their success without their struggle, their results without their discipline. This creates unrealistic expectations and unnecessary discouragement. By competing with yourself, you work with truth instead of illusion. Every individual is on a different timeline. Background, opportunities, strengths, and starting points vary widely. When you compare yourself to someone else, you ignore these differences and judge yourself unfairly. This leads to impatience and frustration. But when you compare yourself only to who you were before, progress becomes visible. Small improvements matter. A better attitude, a stronger habit, a wiser decision. These are real victories. Over time, these small wins compound into meaningful change. Competing with yourself also builds responsibility. When there is no one else to blame or outperform, excuses lose their power. You stop saying, "They have more resources," or "They got lucky," and start asking, "What can I do better today?" This mindset puts you back in control. Responsibility is empowering because it reminds you that your future is shaped by your choices, not someone else's success. This approach creates emotional stability. Comparison creates emotional highs and lows. Confidence one moment, insecurity the next. But when you focus on self-improvement, your confidence becomes steadier. You are not shaken by someone else's success because it doesn't threaten your progress. You can admire others without diminishing yourself. You can learn from them without resenting them. This emotional maturity is a sign of true inner strength. When you compete only with yourself, jealousy transforms into inspiration. Instead of feeling threatened by someone else's achievements, you study them. You ask what habits, disciplines, or mindsets led to their results. You extract lessons instead of comparisons. This turns other people's success into a resource, rather than a reminder of your own insecurities. Growth-minded individuals are not intimidated by excellence, they are educated by it. This mindset also encourages patience. Real growth takes time, and comparing yourself to someone further along the path creates unnecessary pressure. When you focus on your own journey, you allow yourself to progress at a sustainable pace. You build skills thoroughly instead of rushing for recognition. You begin to appreciate the process, understanding that mastery is built through repetition, not shortcuts. Competing with yourself creates a sense of inner dignity. You no longer need to prove your worth to anyone. Your satisfaction comes from knowing that you showed up better today than you did yesterday. This quiet pride fuels consistency. You don't quit easily because you are invested in your own progress. You are no longer chasing validation, you are building character. When comparison ends, momentum begins. Energy that was once wasted on envy, self-doubt, or distraction is redirected toward improvement. Focus sharpens. Decisions become clearer. You start measuring success by effort, discipline, and growth rather than applause or rankings. Over time, this approach produces confidence that cannot be taken away, because it was built internally. By choosing to compete only with yourself, you create a path of progress that is honest, sustainable, and entirely your own. Many people confuse confidence with ego, and because of that confusion, they either shrink themselves or overcompensate. True confidence does not announce itself. It expresses itself through standards. When you act as if you are the best, the real work is not in talking bigger, but in living better. Raising your standards is a private decision that shows up publicly through discipline, consistency, and quality. Ego wants recognition without responsibility. High standards demand responsibility without applause. Standards are the invisible rules you live by when no one is watching. They determine how seriously you take your time, your commitments, and your potential. When standards are low, excuses feel reasonable. When standards are high, excuses feel uncomfortable. This discomfort is not a weakness. It is a sign of growth. Rising your standards means you expect more from yourself than the environment expects from you. You don't wait to be pushed. You move because it is who you have decided to be. Ego looks for shortcuts, standards look for structure. An inflated ego says, I deserve success. Elevated standards say, I will earn success. This shift changes everything. Instead of focusing on how talented you are, you focus on how disciplined you are. Talent opens the door, but standards keep you in the room. The people who last are not always the most gifted, but they are the most consistent. Consistency is simply standards practiced daily. When you raise your standards, preparation becomes non-negotiable. You stop relying on luck or last-minute effort. You prepare because showing up unprepared feels like a violation of who you are. This mindset transforms pressure into performance. Pressure overwhelms those with weak standards because they rely on mood and motivation. Those with high standards rely on systems, routines, and habits. They do the work whether they feel like it or not, and that reliability builds trust with themselves and with others. High standards also influence how you handle time. You become more selective about where your hours go and who has access to your energy. You understand that every yes is a no to something else. Acting as if you are the best means you don't waste your prime hours on distractions that don't align with your goals. This is not about being rigid, it is about being intentional. Intentional living is a sign of self-respect. Raising standards does not mean becoming harsh or unrealistic with yourself. It means being honest. You acknowledge when you fall short, but you don't excuse it. You correct it. You review your actions, adjust your approach, and move forward stronger. This creates resilience. Instead of being crushed by mistakes, you are shaped by them. You expect excellence, but you allow progress. That balance keeps you growing without burning out. This mindset also improves your relationships. When your standards are clear, you communicate better and tolerate less dysfunction. You show up on time, keep your word, and give your best effort. Over time, people notice. Not because you demand respect, but because your behavior earns it. Respect is rarely requested, it is observed. Raising your standards changes how you see yourself. You stop asking for confidence and start building it through action. Every time you meet your own expectations, you reinforce belief. Confidence becomes quiet and steady because it is backed by evidence. You know what you are capable of because you have seen yourself do the work. When standards rise, ego naturally falls. There is no need to brag when your life reflects discipline. You don't need to compare when you are committed to excellence. Acting as if you are the best is not about claiming superiority. It is about honoring your potential with consistent effort. Over time, those standards shape your character, and your character shapes your results. Most people wait to feel confident before they act, but confidence does not arrive first. It is built. It is the result of preparation, repetition, and proof. When you rely on feelings, confidence comes and goes. When you rely on preparation, confidence becomes stable. Acting as if you are the best is not about pretending you know everything. It is about respecting the process enough to get ready. Preparation removes the need to fake confidence because it replaces hope with competence. Preparation is a private habit with public consequences. What you do when no one is watching determines how you perform when everyone is watching. The hours spent learning, practicing, reviewing, and improving may feel invisible, but they create visible results. The mind becomes calm when it knows the work has been done. Anxiety often comes from knowing you are underprepared. When preparation is thorough, fear has less room to operate. Confidence built through preparation is different from confidence built through praise. Praise is external and temporary. Preparation is internal and lasting. You don't need someone to tell you that you're ready when you've put in the work. This creates self-trust. Self-trust is the foundation of true confidence. When you trust yourself, you stop seeking constant reassurance. You move with quiet certainty because your belief is backed by effort. Preparation also sharpens decision-making. When you understand your craft, your choices become quicker and more accurate. Hesitation fades because knowledge replaces doubt. You are no longer guessing. You are responding from experience. This is why the most effective people appear calm under pressure. They are not calm because they are fearless, but because they are familiar. They have been there before through practice, rehearsal, and study. The discipline of preparation trains your character. It teaches patience, focus, and humility. You accept that mastery takes time, and that shortcuts weaken foundations. Each session of practice strengthens not only your skill, but your identity. You begin to see yourself as someone who shows up, someone who improves, someone who can be relied upon. This identity shift is subtle but powerful. You no longer ask whether you belong. You know you do because you earned your place. Preparation also changes how you handle mistakes. When you are prepared, mistakes become adjustments rather than disasters. You understand the process well enough to correct course quickly. Unprepared people panic when things go wrong because they lack a framework to respond. Prepared people adapt because they understand the fundamentals. This adaptability is a major source of confidence in unpredictable situations. Building confidence through preparation requires consistency, not intensity. Occasional effort produces occasional belief. Daily effort produces stable confidence. Small daily improvements compound over time. You don't need dramatic breakthroughs, you need reliable habits. Reading a little each day, practicing a skill regularly, reviewing your performance. These actions seem ordinary, but they create extraordinary self-belief over time. Preparation also eliminates the need to compare yourself to others. When you are focused on getting better, you are too busy to be insecure. You measure progress by skill, not status. This keeps your confidence grounded. You know where you are strong and where you need work. This honesty prevents both arrogance and self-doubt. As preparation becomes a lifestyle, confidence stops being a question. You no longer ask, "Am I good enough?" You ask, "Am I ready?" And readiness is something you can control. Acting as if you are the best means you respect the craft, honor the process, and do the work before the moment demands it. When the moment arrives, confidence is not something you try to feel. It is simply there, built quietly over time through preparation. Fear is often misunderstood. Many people see fear as a warning that they should stop, retreat, or wait. But fear is not a command. It is a signal. It signals that you are stepping beyond what is familiar, not beyond what is possible. When you decide to act as if you are the best, fear does not disappear, but it changes its role. Instead of controlling your actions, it becomes information you learn from. Growth and fear often arrive together, and the presence of fear usually means you are moving in the right direction. Fear grows strongest when identity is weak. If you are unsure of who you are, every challenge feels like a threat to your worth. A single rejection feels personal. A mistake feels like exposure. But when you have decided that no one is better than you at becoming who you are meant to be, fear loses its authority. It can speak, but it cannot decide. You listen to it without obeying it. This is the difference between courage and recklessness. Courage acknowledges fear and moves forward anyway. When fear appears, most people ask the wrong question. They ask, "What if I fail?" Or, "What will people think?" These questions amplify fear because they focus on outcomes beyond your control. A better question is, "What will I lose if I don't act?" Often, the cost of inaction is far greater than the risk of failure. Opportunities shrink when fear is allowed to lead. Confidence grows when action is taken despite uncertainty. Fear becomes a stop sign only when you let it define your limits. But when you treat fear as a signal, it becomes a guide. It highlights areas where growth is needed, skills to develop, preparation to improve, mindset to strengthen. Instead of avoiding fear, you study it. You ask what it is pointing to. This turns fear into a teacher rather than an enemy. Over time, repeated exposure reduces its intensity. What once felt terrifying becomes manageable, then routine. Acting in the presence of fear builds self-respect. Each time you move forward despite discomfort, you prove something to yourself. You reinforce the belief that you are capable of handling challenges. This evidence-based confidence is powerful because it cannot be taken away by opinions or setbacks. You have faced fear before and survived. This memory becomes a resource you draw from in future challenges. Fear also loses power when you stop trying to eliminate it. Many people wait until fear disappears before acting, but that moment rarely comes. Fear fades after action, not before it. Movement creates clarity. Clarity reduces fear. This is why action is such a powerful antidote to anxiety. Even small steps weaken fear's grip, because they shift your focus from imagination to execution. There is also wisdom in fear. It sharpens awareness and encourages preparation. When fear is present, it signals that the moment matters. This awareness can improve performance if you don't allow it to overwhelm you. The goal is not to silence fear, but to manage it. You breathe, focus, and act deliberately. You use fear's energy instead of fighting it. Over time, treating fear as a signal builds emotional strength. You stop seeing discomfort as danger. You understand that growth requires tension, effort, and risk. This mindset creates resilience. Setbacks no longer scare you because you expect resistance. You are not surprised by difficulty, you are prepared for it. When fear stops being a stop sign, momentum begins. You apply for the opportunity, start the project, speak up, and take responsibility. Not because you are fearless, but because you believe that fear does not have the final word. Acting as if you are the best means you trust your ability to learn, adapt, and recover. Fear may ride along, but it no longer drives. Many people wait for permission to lead, to take charge, or to be recognized. They believe responsibility should come after a title, an invitation, or approval. But responsibility always comes first. When you act as if you are the best, you don't wait to be chosen. You behave like the person who deserves to be chosen. This mindset shifts you from a passive role into an active one. You stop reacting to life and start shaping it through your decisions and actions. Taking responsibility begins with ownership. Ownership means accepting that your results, good or bad, are largely influenced by your choices. This does not mean blaming yourself for everything, but it does mean refusing to hide behind excuses. When you take ownership, you gain power. Blame gives temporary relief, but responsibility gives long-term control. Acting as if you are the best requires the courage to say, "This is mine to handle," even when it's uncomfortable. Leadership is often misunderstood as authority over others, but real leadership starts with self-management. It shows up in reliability, initiative, and follow-through. You do what needs to be done even when it is not your job, even when no one is watching. This behavior builds trust quietly. People may not praise you immediately, but they notice. Responsibility has a way of revealing character over time. When you take responsibility early, you develop problem-solving skills. Instead of complaining about what's wrong, you look for what can be improved. You become solution-oriented. This approach separates leaders from followers. Followers wait for instructions, leaders look for impact. Acting as if you are the best means you don't wait for perfect conditions. You work with what you have, where you are, and improve as you go. Responsibility also changes how you handle mistakes. Instead of defending your ego, you focus on correction. You admit errors quickly and adjust. This honesty strengthens credibility. People trust those who own their mistakes more than those who hide them. Self-responsibility creates emotional maturity because it removes the need to protect a fragile self-image. Your identity is strong enough to handle imperfection. Taking responsibility develops patience. When you know results will catch up eventually, you stop rushing for recognition. You focus on doing the work right instead of doing it fast. This patience is not passive, it is purposeful. You understand that consistency compounds, and that character is built before success becomes visible. Acting responsibly without immediate reward builds inner confidence. As responsibility becomes a habit, opportunities begin to align. Not because you demand them, but because you are prepared for them. Life tends to offer more to those who handle what they already have well. Small responsibilities lead to bigger ones. You become the person others rely on, not because you seek attention, but because you deliver results. Letting results catch up requires faith in the process. You may act responsibly for a long time before recognition appears. This delay tests commitment. But those who persist understand that identity drives outcomes. You are not acting for applause, you are acting in alignment with who you have decided to be. Eventually, the gap between effort and outcome closes. When responsibility is embraced, confidence becomes grounded. You don't need to convince anyone of your value, because your actions speak clearly. Acting as if you are the best is not about claiming superiority. It is about showing reliability. Over time, leadership emerges naturally. Results follow responsibility, trust follows consistency, and success follows those who take ownership long before they are asked to.